We're just missing Karen Cabral.
Marja, are we missing a couple of our honorees?
We are, plus we're missing Karen. Hello, Bento, I love you.
Oh, there's John.
And on the next, Brian Bradshaw's here.
Have you seen Saviano yet?
No.
I haven't seen Adam either.
Adam's here.
Oh, okay, Adam's in. The only one that you missed is John Saviano, I guess.
Kate was on
I
the
didn't
phone.
see him when I
wonder if
paid
Kate was
through.
I wonder if Kate was on the phone with him.
Okay.
Yes, she is. Or was. Karen's here, so we'll get started. Is Kate? When Kate lets us know whether he's going to be here or not. Tara's coming in by phone tonight only. But I don't see her here yet either. Tara just texted me, she's here. Kate, did you get a hold of John?
Madam Chair, I did not. I'm going to try once more, but I'm not getting Mr. Saviano.
All right, so why don't we get started, because everybody else is here, and hopefully John will jump on. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. We have lots of good things on our agenda tonight, and I'm just going to take a minute before we move into the accolades to tell you something. We have two presentations tonight. One we had to postpone, and another one that Dr. Bryce is delivering. We also have public comment on the agenda tonight, and we don't normally have public comment during the business meeting except at the very beginning. However, because we're doing two presentations, I will entertain questions, first from the school committee and then from the audience on the two presentations that we'll see tonight. So, having said that, the first accolade, Mr. Cabral.
The 2020-21 school committee would like to honor 4 former school committee members that gave so much time and energy to support the district for the years listed below. John Saviano was here for 16 years. Remember the fact that kids come out of school for 13 years. He was here for 16 years. I hope he graduated. He was here from 2004 to 2020. John Bento was here for 12 years. Apparently he didn't do kindergarten. He was here from 2008 to 2020. Brian Bradshaw was here for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. He was probably at the high school. Adam Ramus was also here at the high school for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020. We thank you for your service, and we will be presenting you with this plaque to all 4 members. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, everybody. I've had the opportunity to serve with all of them. Certainly, Bento, when he FaceTimed us from Afghanistan and falling asleep, but trying to run a meeting. I can't say enough about all of the things that these individuals have brought to the table, the things, certainly the things that I learned from them. And I also can't thank them enough for their service. It's not easy being a public servant, and they gave it their all. And for that, I say thank you very, very much. Dr. Bryce, did you want to say something?
Absolutely. So to all of the gentlemen that are here, to Mr. Saviano that's not here, but certainly I'm sure joins us in spirit, I just want to thank you for all of the conversations, all of the suggestions, all of the hard work, and the thoughts. I see John. John just arrived.
Oh, there he is. Hi,
Saviano, how
John.
you doing?
Where's that Saviano?
Right down on the bottom
He
corner.
just popped on the bottom corner. Hopefully he can hear us. And Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. I know
He's
you want to say
connecting to
something.
audio. Wait a minute.
All right.
John,
Can we unmute him, Rose?
are you unmuted, John? You're not unmuted.
He has
Hello.
There he is. There he is.
There you are. How you doing, sir?
Hey, super. How about you guys?
We miss you. How you been?
I've been just great. Just having a few problems to do still with the to do with the Lyme's disease. You know.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I've had it now for since February of last year.
Marge, do you want me to read that again for him?
For John, yes, please. We said something nice about you, John.
Oh, I can't believe you found anything.
And I said something nice about you too.
I'm getting all nervous now. You're scaring me.
I know. It's interesting, huh? Go ahead, Dick.
John, they wrote it up for me because you know I wouldn't have said these things. You know what I mean?
I'm sure of it.
The 2020-21 school committee would like to honor John Saviano, and the member of the school committee that gave so much time and energy in support of the district for the years below. John, you served 16 years from 2004 to 2020. You actually saw many, many kids come and leave this school district. Thank you very much for all of your time. And John, just to let you know, we will be presenting you with a plaque like this one here. Can you see it?
No, you got to hold it up in front of your face. I can't see it. There
Oh,
it
I'm
is.
sorry. Yeah, I'm put in front of the, can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So you will be presented with this plaque. All right. Thank you, John, for all your time.
Yep.
Do I
Thank
have an
you.
opportunity to say anything?
Yes, you
Unfortunately,
do.
yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as fast as possible because I know you have business to attend to.
This might be the first time.
When I was at the school teaching from 1999 to through 2000, class of 2004, I was there, class advisor and everything. And so when the kids were leaving, the kids said, Mr. Sav, you did so much for us. We'd like you to do more. And I said, how? And they said, we'd like you to run for school committee And all you have to do is just go and sign up at the town hall to say that you'd like to be on the school committee. And so I said, look, I'll do that, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to be in Italy for an extended period of time. I'm not going to be able to go into any debates or anything. And so I hate to disappoint you, but they said, please, Mr. Sav, just go to the town hall. So I went to the town hall. We went away. We were away for a long time in Italy. And so when we came back, there was a banner on the front of my house that said, congratulations, Mr. School Committee Man. So that's how I got on the school committee. And so I'm so pleased that I've had some effect. I think I've helped a lot of people, and I truly appreciate this honor that you've bestowed upon me.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort, and thank you for caring so much about our children. We appreciate every minute that you gave us. Do
Thank you,
any of the
Marge.
other honorees wish to speak tonight? Yes, Mr. Bento. You're muted. You're not.
Marge, that's Colonel Bento.
I know it's
I'm
Colonel.
not muted now.
I talked about listening to him from Afghanistan.
Ah,
Go
yeah,
ahead, Bento.
yes.
Hey, just want to thank you all for the opportunity to come in here. It was very nice of you all. I miss you all as well. I want to thank everybody that was on the last committee meeting. John, Brian, Adam, Marge, Victor, Carly, Aaron, Sheila, to you, Dr. Bryce, to Kate, Diane, I see Mary Ann there, and I know I'm missing other people on other pages. Dr. D, I see over there. It was just a pleasure to work with you all, and I miss you all, and I truly wish you the best in your endeavors as you try to help our students and, you know, try to give them the best education our taxpayers can provide. Oh, I see Diane Campbell there. Good to see you too, Diane. But to all of you, thank you so much, and I wish you the best.
Congratulations, Colonel. You did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. I hope your family's fine. Anybody else? Adam, yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I just want to echo the thanks that Mr. Bento and Mr. Saviano gave for the thoughtfulness of inviting us back here to thank us for the time that we served. But I think I speak not only for myself and for my fellow former school committee members who are on tonight, but also for all the current school committee members. You know, we've all done this, and we do this work because we care so much about making a great community, having great education for all of our kids. And you know, the experience of being on the school committee was not what I expected it to be. It was so much more. And the things that we faced during my short 4 years, you know, compared to Mr. Saviano and Mr. Bento, I was barely a blip on the radar, I suppose, in terms of the timeline of the school committee. But in the 4 years I was there, so many different things happened that we could not have expected, and we handled them working together. Sometimes I spent more time with all of you than it seems like I spent with my own family, and it was worth it because we did a lot of really good things. And I am really, really excited to see how the school committee moves things forward and continues to build this school district to the best that it can be. And although I'm no longer on the school committee, I remain a huge supporter and willing to help in any way that I can to help you achieve all those goals. Thank you very much for bringing us here tonight.
Amen. Good job.
Thank you, Adam. I think for the first time, we realized that we agreed more than we disagreed, and it was a good 4 years, and I really appreciate the time that you put into it. It matters when people run for office. It matters when they work and care about our children, and you mattered for that amount of time, and thank you. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like my former colleagues have said, thank you. Thank you for making my 4 years enjoyable, memorable. Thank you to the parents for all the support, to the teachers, to the administrators, everybody that works so tirelessly, all the school committee members that I was so humbly able to serve with. Dr. Bryce, for your leadership in this district, and Dr. Santa as well. I just want to say thank you. Continue the good works for the students. Like Mr. Ramos said, that's why we're here, right? We're here for the students, for their education, and to ensure that they get the best one that this district can give them. Again, thanks for everything. Thank you for having us here tonight, and for the kind words. And I wish you all the very best in the future. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. I miss the redhead next to me. I hope life is treating you well. We had a good 4 years, and I think that we learned a lot from each other. And I appreciate the time that you took and how much you cared about what was going on in our district. And it's nice to see you show up for meetings since you've left. I appreciate that. So take care.
You as well. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we have some students accolades. We had some pretty successful women in our school district this year. Mr. Cabral.
The Mount Hope High School Winter 2020-21 Student Athlete Honorees are, on behalf of the school committee and Superintendent Bryce, we would like to congratulate Mount Hope High School Student Athlete Honorees on their achievements during the Winter 2020-21 season. The Mount Hope High School girls basketball team, RIIL Division champion, first time since 1997.
Wow.
Undefeated regular season. The state finalists, first time in school history. The girls basketball team were coached by Caitlin Booth and Katie Klein. Assistant coach was James Brackett. The managers were Jeff Keegan and Kerry Ferreira. Our star athletes were, and I emphasize star athletes because they were all star athletes: Ren Ferris, Amani Jackson, Laura Johnson Hoffman, Aditi Mehta, Shivani Mehta, Mia Padula, and Lauren Paves. To all you ladies, congratulations.
Great job.
Thank you very, very much, ladies.
Not only that, we also have the girls gymnastics team. Mount Hope High School girls gymnastic team, division champions, undefeated regular season. They are also the regional state champions. They are coached by Nicole Daniello, assisted by Courtney Lahero. I hope I got that right. Avery, the athletes are, and again, we definitely know that these were star athletes on our gymnastics team. Avery Furtado, Marissa Grenier, Carolyn Nash, Reese Paval, Nora Prendergast, Brooke Ramella, and Maria Ticarone. Ladies, congratulations.
Yay, congrats.
Thank you very much. I can't wait till the time when we're actually in person and we can really make some noise.
And I'm not
The women
finished
did a
yet.
wonderful job. What?
I'm not finished yet because we
I
have
know
another
you're
team.
not. There's another group.
Believe it or not, I have another team. And they are the Mount Hope High School girls swimming team. They were Division II runners-up. They were coached by Adam Dutra, Casey O'Connor, and our star athletes were Dana Cobery, Isabel Correa, Laura Deal, Allison Devine, Megan Holly, Ann Krzyzewicki, Amelia Olivia, Oliver, oh my God, Portuguese, I can't even pronounce. Amelia Oliveira, Serena Souza, Hope Tiska, Alyssa Wheeler, Erica Wheeler, and Ava White. Thank you. No, Eva White, I'm sorry. Congratulations, ladies. And
Go
I
ahead.
just have one more comments to make. Please realize that tonight, our football team is actually playing the first game since Thanksgiving of 2019. Congratulations to them also.
Well, that's where one of our school committee members is, and I'm sure she'll keep us up to date on what's going on. And again, I'm really proud of the women in this district. They definitely showed their mettle this year. All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. If anybody has anything they want to talk about that's outside of the two presentations that we're having tonight, please raise your hand. Public comment is 15 minutes and you have 3 minutes per person. I don't see any hands. No, okay. Don't forget though, that I will entertain questions from the audience after the presentations. So moving on to the consent agenda. Before we vote on the consent agenda, I'm going to pull the approval of the March 8th, 2021 school committee meeting minutes, because we made an amendment at the request of 2 school committee members on the issue of a vote. So knowing that the amendment has been made, I would entertain a motion to approve the March 8th minutes.
Okay, hold on.
Do we see them since they've been amended before we approve them?
Mrs. Kimball, did you send them out?
I only got one copy.
I did not send them out because I was still in discussion with one of the school committee members about a part. But the amendment that is on the current one was that in the vote for the on the motion about the budget, I'm sorry, the policy on procurement, I made a mistake and I put in the incorrect error, the incorrect name. So the names for dissent are now corrected.
Anything else, Nikki? Okay, I need a motion to accept those minutes as amended.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 8th, 2021 as amended.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Now I'll entertain the rest of the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please. Where are my motion people?
I'll make that motion, Marge.
Thanks. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Dr. Bryce, I believe that you'd like to step in at this time and make some introductions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So tonight I would like to introduce the new Human Resource Manager for the Bristol Warren Regional School District. I see her, Leanne Beaupre. Wave to everybody, Leanne. So Leanne comes to us with over 17 years of experience as an HR administrator in a variety of settings. She currently works for an organization that operates multiple health, rehabilitative, and elder care facilities and is responsible for all aspects of human resources for 200 union employees. She has played a lead role in negotiating contracts for 2 unions. And we are absolutely just overwhelmed and very joyful that she has decided to join our team. She has experience and a wealth of knowledge in all components of HR, including developing strong working relationships with union leaders and a focus on quality recruitment, training, and employee retention strategies. She has strong experience, and her experience aligns with the vision of the district in improving operational efficiency and effectiveness and in becoming the excellent organization that we know that we can be. So with that, Leanne Beaupre, she is waving. And she will join us. I think her first day in district is going to be April, I want to say April 26th. Am I right for that? Is that right? Okay, April 26th.
Thank you so much. We're excited. Can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to get together. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much. Okay. We put this off from last month, regrettably. But Dr. Lyons is here again, thank you, to give us the Career and Technical Education Programs presentation. Dr. Lyons, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the school committee as well and the Bristol Warren community for having me here tonight. I just have one question for Rose or Ryan. I was wondering if you guys could present the presentation. Thank you so much, Ryan. You are a wizard. So thank you for having me here. My name is Dr. Nicole Lyons, and I will be taking us through our college and career readiness work regarding career and tech ed programs and pathways. So I'd like to take a second to ground this presentation with using this image. I'd like to use this image to represent the varying students in their needs that we have in our classrooms today. Diversity lies in many things like gender and race and ethnicity and background and experience and learner types and needs. And I'm not even getting to all the things that diversity can be labeled in and reside in. But I want us to keep this image in mind as we think about our work for CTE and college and career readiness, because college and career readiness, CTE programs and pathways is for every student. And we need to think about how our programs and pathways can meet their needs. So as we go through this presentation tonight, I challenge you to think about one student and how CTE programs and pathways and post-secondary credentials will help them be successful after high school. Next slide, please. So as a good educator, I set some objectives for us tonight to keep us focused and grounded. So this presentation should help you know the purpose and benefits of programs and pathways, the differences between the CTE programs and pathways, and the current programs and pathways that we offer. I'm hoping that as a result of this presentation, you understand the importance of our messaging as a community around planning our CTE programs and pathways. And as a result of tonight's session, I hope that we can all commit to beginning our work together by committing to using the word and. And this will make sense at the end of the presentation, I promise. Next slide, please, Ryan. So we're going to get right into it. What are pathways? Well, the focus in education has been on high stakes testing, and it's now shifted to broadening opportunities that define student proficiency and success through post-secondary credentials, which are in career and tech programs, advanced placement courses, and college level coursework. Tonight, we're focusing on the CTE piece. So the question we have to answer as a district is, how do we make education rigorous, real, and relevant for students so they're prepared for post-high school work in college and career opportunities? And the answer to that question is through pathways and CTE programs, where they can concentrate their learning, transfer their skills, and get hands-on learning in school. So students will now, as a result of participating in pathways and programs, get more than a high school diploma. That's their goal. It's to earn more than a high school diploma. So pathways are designed to help students organize their coursework into a program of study in order to concentrate their learning of interest. It's a series of courses intended for students to take in order to learn deeply about the subject. Pathways have the potential to become CTE programs, or they may remain a pathway. We'll get into that later in the presentation. But pathways allow students to increase their engagement in school. They allow students to earn pathway endorsements, which are affixed to their diploma, which alerts a college or a workplace that they have dedicated their time and energy to a specific subject, and they have a certain skill set that will be worthy of their worthy in college or in the workplace. They earn college credits and save on college costs if they take college level classes. The pathways provide real world learning opportunities, and they also help support our local workforce and economy. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Ryan, next slide, please. So this is happening now. This is a current student in our bioscience pathway. This student is engaged in real world learning. This student has been trained and helps out with our school-based Binax testing on a weekly basis. She trained on, oh, excuse me, my Siri keeps going off. She trained with the school nurse and works aside the school nurse. The school nurse acts as her mentor. And this student wants to pursue a career in research in a science field. She's not sure which field yet, but this student is a student who now, because she's taken a concentration of courses in science, she's participating in work-based learning, and she has also, next year, she'll do her senior project. She will then qualify for a pathway endorsement. So this is the type of work we want our students to do as a result of being in a pathway and pursuing their interests. We want them to do rigorous, real, relevant work. Next slide, Ryan. So now let's talk about CTE CTE programs. So now the goal of CTE programs in high schools is to get students to graduate with employability skills to begin a job in a career path that they're interested in. So the Commerce Corporation of Rhode Island examines current Rhode Island industry trends to determine priority sectors. And then the priority sectors dictate the career clusters that then dictate to the Rhode Island CTE board what CTE programs can be approved at high schools. So there's this trickle down effect, and it all comes from priority sectors. So we have to recognize that with CTE programs, they're ever changing because they're based on priority sectors and metrics from the Commerce Corporation of Rhode Island. So we have to be ready to adapt swiftly when changes are made in order to keep our programs real and relevant. So CTE programs, they provide students a pathway of study, but with some more specific training directly linked to high skill, high wage, high demand careers. A CTE program must align to industry standards that are set by the Rhode Island CTE Board of Education, contain high quality work-based learning, trained teachers, and certification exams. So the CTE program is framed around industry needs. So students can enter a training program or the workforce immediately after high school. So CTE programs allow students to learn in an environment that's like the workplace. It increases student engagement in school. Students are eligible to earn an industry credential, which is similar to the pathway endorsement. An industry credential is affixed to a student's diploma, and it basically signals to a workplace that this student has a specific level of proficiency within their career path to earn a high wage, high demand job right out of high school. CTE programs also provide real world workplace opportunities and also support our local workforce and economy. We currently at Mount Hope High School have thank you, Ryan. We currently have two CTE programs that are approved, our business and finance program and our engineering program. We are currently in the application process with 3 of our CTE programs that are currently pathways: architecture and construction, bioscience, and information technology. Unfortunately, the CTE board halted their application process during COVID, but are expected to open their application process next school year. So we are in the process of preparing these applications. We'll have them done, ready. So when we need to go through the approval process, we will get approved. Next. Thank you, Ryan. So we'll just go through these slides relatively quickly. This is just an example of what our business and finance pathway looks like. So students have access to the courses in the sequence. They are eligible while they go through those courses to get an EverFi certificate, a QuickBooks certification, and also a NOCTI certification in general management. And those are the industry credentials assessments for business and finance path program. They have access to 80 hours of work-based learning through DECA and the Husky Zone, which is our school store. But we do encourage students get many more hours than that through out of school or off-site internships, apprenticeships, and mentorships. And finally, our business students have access to college credits through the University of Rhode Island. Next, please. Thank you, Ryan. So our engineering pathway looks very similar. We have our Project Lead the Way 3-course sequence. We like to highlight some of the equipment we have just because it's really cool. And our students are learning on equipment that is in the workplace. We offer work-based learning hours. Again, our curriculum covers about 80+ hours, but we encourage students to go out and get internships and apprenticeships and mentorships. That has been very challenging during COVID, but we hope it picks right up in the next school year. We currently have partnerships with businesses like Raytheon and local businesses like Water Rower. And we work with Apprenticeship Rhode Island and Mentorship Rhode Island. And just like business, these students have access to college level classes as well. Next, please. So now that I have just dumped all that information onto you, let's just reel it in for a second. And you might be saying, okay, like that's just so much. Pathways, programs, CTE board. Whoa. I'm going to ground us again. So let's take a look at this career tree. So being in a CTE program or a pathway of study doesn't mean you have to go right into the workforce. It's an option. So a CTE program offers students options to grow within a career path. So for instance, we might have a student in the engineering pathway who graduates from high school and becomes at an entry level right out of high school is a drone operator. The student may be a drone operator while they're enrolled in a technical program to become a robot programmer, which is considered a technical career. Another student in the same exact program may enroll into a 4-year college right out of high school, and they might want to become a robotics engineer. So in order to offer students what they're interested in and what they want to do after high school, we need to provide the foundation, which in this image lays at the roots. We need to provide students high quality academics, rigorous. We need to create relevant experiences for students. We need real world application to help them build their professional skills, all while trying to help them find their passion. So when you think of pathways and CTE programs, if of anything I just said in the past few minutes, just remember this tree. All right, next, Ryan. So let's look at some data points. Now, I don't want to get too nitty gritty into the data in terms of looking at numbers and courses, but I do want to point us in a couple of directions using this chart. So first, I'd like to recognize that this is an enrollment over 4 years in our business and finance program. The x-axis represents the course sequence within the program, and the y-axis represents the number of students. if we just take a quick look, we can notice that as the students go from an intro course to course 3, there's a steady decline in enrollment. So this data tells us that participation is steady, but completion of the program is not. In order for students to earn an industry credential, they need to take the 3 course sequence that is under the career program. So we can see that a bunch of students take the intro class, but as the years go on, we decline in that participation. So this leads us to a couple of questions, and I'll get to those questions in a second. Next slide, please. And we see a very similar trend in our engineering classes. A lot of students start in the intro courses, and then there's a steady decline of program completers. So we have program participation, we have program concentration, which means that students take 2 classes. They're a concentrator if they take 2 classes. But we are struggling with the program completers. Now, I'd also like to bring this to the table. I normally don't like to say this, but this is a statewide struggle. Statewide, all high schools like Mount Hope High School, meaning traditional academic high schools who are bringing CTE programs into their schools, are struggling with program completion. And this is something that the Rhode Island CTE board is currently thinking about, and how we can all change and try to get policies in place to help us, traditional high schools, not CTE centers, traditional high schools, increase our program completers. Because that's why we're here. We're here for these students to find their passion, and we're here to help them see it through. So the questions this brings up is, what policies do we have in place to help support program pathway and enrollment, program completion and enrollment? Why are certain courses, excuse me, I'm gonna skip that question. Why are students not continuing in the pathway? And then how accessible are these programs to students? So those are some of the questions that we are pondering right now as a school and are currently trying to address. Next. So since November, I have had a lot of like just exciting work, and I've been able to really look at everything that Mount Hope and Bristol Warren has had to offer. And I have been able to do a lot of research. And so the enrollment data that we just looked at reveals 3 barriers that we need to overcome or get around. One is policy, so current CTE policies. 2 is program requirements, making sure that program requirements are not limiting students from getting into pathways or completing pathways. And finally is scheduling. Scheduling is the way that we decide to work with time in schools. So how do we remove barriers in the schedule to ensure that all courses are offered and that students have the opportunity to earn those career and industry credentials? Next, please. So let's talk about the fundamental difference. So at this point, you're like, CTE programs, pathways, okay, they're very, very similar. One's an industry credential, one's a pathway endorsement, but really, like, there's not really a big difference, but there is. So pathways, the district funds. So if we want to create pathways through and design programs of study with students, we fund the pathways and we dictate how they're designed as long as they meet the requirements by RIDE. We can do that. Pathways can become CTE programs if the Rhode Island CTE board says they're a priority sector. But if they're not, they remain pathways. CTE programs, however, once approved, are eligible for funding like Perkins, Prepare RI grants, and categorical aid. So CTE programs are not all funded by the district. Their CTE programs make schools eligible for funding, and that's the fundamental difference. Next. So if there's anything else besides the career tree, this slide is really what I'd like you to focus on. CTE programs are the enrollment stabilizer for our district and the revenue enhancer for our district. So this is why CTE, not only do CTE programs matter and pathways matter for student interest, but they do have a benefit in keeping our students in our district. So let's look at that $525,000. Over the past 4 years, 35 students have left our district to pursue other programs in other districts. So you may be thinking 35 students over 4 years, it's a little less than 10 students a year. Is that really a big deal if our enrollment's like 950, like 935 at the high school? But what if then you knew that each student costs roughly $15,000 and the money follows the student? So this means that if these 35 students decided to stay, we would have maintained $525,000 over 4 years. But that's not how I want you to think about this slide. I want you to think about it in the inverse. What if these students stayed? That means we would have had a $525,000 as a stabilizer because they're our own students and they're staying in our district. And then we gained 35 students over 4 years. We were the school that students wanted to come to because our programs and our pathways and what we had to offer was just so awesome. So the goal for CTE programs is to try to keep our students and gain a few others from communities, the surrounding communities, because we offer awesome programs. Next. So we're getting to the end of the presentation, and I just want to talk about some of the work we have ahead. And at this point, some of you may be asking, like, I'm just so excited about CTE programs and pathways. Like, where do we start? This just all sounds great, but like, where on earth do we start? So here are 3 simple things that we're doing. One is that we are defining college and career readiness, and we are doing this in our CTE charter, our charter strategic planning group. And I'd like to thank the 8 members of our charter for being here tonight. The second is we're developing robust and sustainable programs. We don't want to put a program in place that's just going to fall apart. Students aren't going to be interested in. We want to build really awesome programs so students want to come to our school, and we want them to be sustainable. And finally, we want to develop strong community and business partnerships. CTE programs and pathways are not possible without you, and that's the community. You are going to be the people who drive the needs of our programs, who help our students earn work-based learning, who help them get that relevant, real work experience. Next, please. So this is just a brief timeline, and I've already kind of gone over this, but we have 2 CTE approved pathways. We currently have 3 pathways that are going to be up for application. We offer a STEM endorsement. So our goal by the end of 2024 is to have 7 approved CTE programs and 4 endorsement pathways. Next, please. So this is where "and" comes in. So we are used to saying college or career. What do you want to do? Go to college or go to work, right? We're using the word "or." But a simple shift in our language can have a major impact on keeping our students in our schools and shift the way we view education as a whole. So we as a community and school need to value both college and career to ensure we meet the needs and expectations of each student, not just the students who, aren't going to go to college. No, each student, all students. For this to change, we as a community need to ensure we present a united message that places equal importance on both college and career readiness opportunities. So tonight, I am asking that we as a community can make one commitment, and that is using the word "and," because college and career matter for our students. Next, please. So I want to thank you for listening to me. And if you have any community connections or helpful information that would benefit our students, my contact information is on our slides on our website. We also, by noon tomorrow, will have a business partnership section of our website for Mount Hope High School, where businesses can fill out a proposal to start building our community and business partnerships. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Ryan.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you.
I'm glad we waited till tonight to give it all of the time that it needed. That was great. And I will remember the word "and" rather than "or" for a very long time. Does anybody from the school committee have any questions of Dr. Lyons? Yes, Mr. Cabral.
I don't have a question. I have a statement, okay? I just want everyone to know that Dr. Lyons is a Mount Hope High School graduate. Graduated from URI, got her doctorate there. And we are very proud to have her in our community working for us as a person who has a definite interest in this school. And the other thing is, I just want to make that statement because at the Joint Finance Committee, someone asked about the people we were hiring and if we were hiring local people. And I want you to know that Dr. Lyons is definitely a local person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabral. Thank you, Dr. Lyons. Anybody else have any questions before I open it up to the audience? No, seeing none. Does anybody in the audience use your raise your hand button? And I'm sure Dr. Lyons would be able to answer anything that you're interested in asking her about. Yes, Mr. Gould, Daryl Gould.
Thank you very much. So I just a couple quick questions, just to kind of clarify the nature of the program and such. I mean, one question was during JFC, the numbers presented as far as the cost of sending kids out of district. The numbers I had for the JFC presentation was 30 kids at $360K. In tonight's presentation, it was 35 kids at $525. So I'm just trying to figure out where the difference came up there. One of my other questions is, it sounds like, you know, when a lot of people talk about, you know, vocational studies and CTE, a lot of times we have, you know, the traditional trades in mind, the electrician, plumber, you know, framing, carpentry, things along those lines. Even on the technical side, maybe like surveying, and you know, those types of more technical applications where they're really, you know, where there might be certainly apprenticeships and things of that nature, but those are careers that also don't require college. And I think one of my concerns is getting directives from the Commerce Corp, because it sounds like the programs, while we can, you know, certainly come up with our own, it seems like there's going to be an incentive to go in certain directions, basically to build, you know, a certain particular workforce for the state, where that might not necessarily be in the student's best interest. So I guess how much autonomy is there with, you know, with these CTE programs where we say, okay, we really want to do something where, and we could take plumbing as an example and say, okay, we want to build our own plumbing program and this is what we're going to do. And it's going to be something that obviously wouldn't require a college education in any fashion. That's all I got. Thank you.
So let me answer the first one, part of the second, and then I'll give the rest to Dr. Lyons. So the information that you have, I'm going to share my screen really quickly and so the information in the PowerPoint is a 4-year total of the number of students that went out of district, I believe, to East Providence in their CTE program, right? So it's that total. What I talked about at the JFC was this, that we actually had 30 students that went out of district for CTE programs at a cost of $360,000. We had 7 students that went out of district for charter schools at a cost of $72,000. The total cost is $432,457 to 11 different placements. That is for this current year. And so that is the reason for the difference.
Okay.
In terms of, do we have flexibility? Do we have direction? So we certainly do, but flexibility and the ability to build your own program also come at a cost to the district. And the cost is that you may create a program that does 2 things. One, it does not lead to an industry credential. And 2, you have to fully fund the entire program. Dr. Lyons, I think I got it all, but I may have missed something.
No, it's fine. I just think thank you, Mr. Gould, for asking these questions. And I really look forward to our CTE charter meeting tomorrow. Honestly, Dr. Bryce said it really, it's really up to the school and what we want to offer for programs. Yes, the benefit to offering CTE programs that fall under that priority sector is that piece of funding that's attached. However, that doesn't mean we can't offer programs that aren't priority sector. So to answer your question directly, we do have flexibility. Thank you.
Marge, you're muted. Madam Chair, you're muted.
I also wanted to just add one thing quickly to that too, is that, you know, in determining programs and pathways that we offer, it's important to take a lot of things into consideration, but I think the most important is student interest and looking at what students are interested in, as well as what is the needs within our community, as well as those priority sectors where there are jobs. So we have to take all of those things into account when we are determining what's the best programs and pathways to look at.
So, you know what, and Dr. D, the other thing that I would add to that is you also have to determine the cost of entry into a particular field. So I've said this, I think I said it at the JFC, right? I would love to have an automotive CTE pathway and certified program. The cost of entry into that particular field with the shops, all of the equipment is likely cost prohibitive to the district. And so what it means is that we also have to balance the interest and what we want to do with the fiscal realities that we may not be able to afford to actually build out that particular pathway or CTE program. So it's something that we have to consider.
Does anybody else have any questions? Looks like you're all muted. If not, yes, Mr. Bradshaw. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. St. Angelo, Steve St. Angelo, I'll go to you first and then to Mr. Bradshaw.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Oh, living the dream, Marge.
Aren't we
So
all?
I have, in regards to the basics, to kind of play off of what Mr. Gould said about electricians, plumbers, contractors, and we've been around the block about how we used to have the home building program, and it really was effective. And a lot of people, now I'm still going back to the 80s, but a lot of people turned to electricians and plumbers and home builders and have successful businesses from that. Are we completely strapped? Because I know, are we completely strapped in regards to what we can do on our own versus what Commerce Co-op and the what was referred to as CT Board of Education, which I would assume is the CTE Board of Trustees, state, which binds us. So we had a full-blown metal shop. By 8th or 9th grade, I was welding and pouring molten metal into a foundry in that school. We're building houses. I still have the nightstand I built in the 8th grade sitting here just because I don't have the heart to get rid of it. And those are the things that brought a lot of people that didn't want the 4-year college experience. And they've made careers out of it, and very successful ones. I myself am one of them. So I'm wondering, how limited are we? And I know it's a numbers game and everyone wants to talk about dollars, but where are these rooms now? I haven't been in the school in years, but is there still equipment there? Can it be revived? Or I don't know, I'm just going around in circles, and I know it sounds silly, but what can we do right now with what we have without getting the state involved to try to get these children involved in a career that just doesn't equate to a college career? And or we used to be able to leave work and acquire credits, and then New England Tech used to actually come and look for us. And Mr. Cabral, you can attest to this because, you knew I was one of those. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. St. Angelo, so this is Nicole Lyons. And again, thank you for being on our CTE charter. So I just want to bring, light to 3 points. One is that it's important for community members like you who have been through our programs, who have been very successful in a certain career path, to get our messaging out that this is why our programs are important and this is why our programs matter, because the program made your education relevant and interesting to you. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I'd like to make is that, and it kind of speaks, I guess, to Mr. Gould's point as well, is that we do have options. And if we want to get a program approved, we do have to go to the CTE Board of Trustees. And I thank you for correcting me. It is the CTE Board of Trustees and not education. But, there are certain criteria, but that doesn't mean that we can't offer a robust pathway for students if there's student interest. And finally, I would just like to say that, in getting the construction program and architecture program up and running, not that it was never really dead, but really trying to just rebrand it. Our students are doing some pretty amazing things. And one of the really the largest piece of this work is to get industry, like business and community members, to support the work. And without them, our students won't have that, real world learning off site, not in school. They'll get problem-based learning in school, but they won't get that real world learning on, like you were talking about, when they get to, when you get to leave school and, go to New England Tech, or leave school and go somewhere to build things or build a house. That's what we want our students to do. And we are working on that. So I hope that answered your question. I do look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. And Dr. Bryce, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so it is the right question. I think we as a district are clearly committed to college and career. I think what the charter is working through, what all of the discussions, Dr. DiBiase, Dr. Lyons, Dr. Santa, myself, other folks are having, is really about what programs are going to have the level of interest that would then translate into participation across all 3 of the completed courses. And this brings something to mind. So there's a difference between participating and completing to get, what this is like? This is like earning the merit badge. All right. And so in order to earn the badge, young people need to complete the 3 sequential courses. They need to take whatever the assessment is, and they need 80 hours of experience. One of the problems that we are clearly running into is that many of the young people that start taking these courses are very, very interested in a number of different things, and they make a decision that by the time they get to senior year, they may not take this course because they're taking something that they think is going to help them, whether it be an AP course or another course. So we need to work through that. And frankly, that means that we need, this is probably, there are just some kids that need more hours in the day in order to do everything that they're really interested in doing, both from a career perspective and from, preparing for college perspective. So I think that's another issue that we have.
I'd like to say something if you don't mind. I have been kind of quiet, but Mr. St. Angelo, my sons went to school at Bristol High School in the 80s. And I remember the programs that we had. And it's important to look back and remember because they worked. And each one of my sons had an opportunity to take the courses that you're talking about. If you remember, they were offered on a quarterly basis, and I still have the lamp with the ring that goes up and down. I still have the nightstand. I still have the little spinner. I still have a box. All of the things that my children made when they had the opportunity at the high school. And yes, all 3 of them went to college, but all 3 of them still have those skills. And those skills have helped them their whole life. One of the reasons that it worked so well back then was because the schedule was fixed, so that you could schedule children in the morning to take their basic education courses that they needed to graduate and then to go out into the workforce in the afternoon. So I would really look to your CTE strategic plan committee to come up with some innovative ways that we could take a look at on how to get back some of that 1980s education, which was relevant then and it's relevant now. And I think all of our children, men and women, would benefit from the opportunity to do some of those things. So thanks for taking us back and reminding us that we did it really well once before and we can do it really well again. And I look forward to what your report is when we put the strategic plan together. Thanks again. Mr. Bradshaw, Brian Bradshaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Lyons, for the presentation. And Dr. Bryce kind of reemphasized that emphasized it that it's college and career. 2 points, I guess, and the first one is for Dr. Lyons. At what point does the cost, I know you said that CTE programs are revenue generators, or they can be in the right instances. At what point, though, does the cost become too great to continue a CTE, and where you might say, hey, we've had declining enrollment of this particular CTE program that's been established for a number of years. We would like to try another pathway that we have to fund up front. So we're going to discontinue this CTE program. Is there ever an instance where a CTE program would be discontinued because of lack of enrollment and the costs associated with continuing it?
Thank you for that question. So I would say, like, just speaking from experience, that really, you can just stop a program because of lack of enrollment. But I don't think that is something that our school particularly, I think we have to kind of wait and see like what our data says once we have And once we look at data over like whatever, 3 years or 5 years, to see again, like how many students are completing programs. Because even though a student isn't a program completer, it doesn't mean that students still aren't taking the classes. And students also may want to take part in the work-based learning that's offered. So I would say that it is an option, but I don't want to speak to that's something we definitely want to commit to at this time. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Yep, understand. Just wondering if there's ever an instance where it would make sense, or if the benefits always outweigh, those costs that are associated.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if like, if and when the time came and we had to do like a cost benefit, analysis of keeping a program versus starting another one that maybe another program students were interested in, at that time we would have to make a choice. And I mean, I'm a realist and I think that would be an option that would be on the table, but I wouldn't want to commit to commit to saying that's something we would definitely do at this time.
Yep, understand.
So the one thing I would say is that the conversations that Dr. DiBiase and her leadership team, our district leadership team have had about operating courses beneath a certain level, right? Because what it does is it just creates a situation where if you have really small classes in one place in your schedule, it means that you're going to have a bulge or a bubble someplace else. And so what we want to do is we want to limit that where possible, but we know that we're trying to grow CTE. So in some cases, we will have to make an exception if we don't get the numbers. We hope that all of the work that Dr. Lyons is doing, the presentation she's made to incoming ninth graders and their parents, the work that she's doing with school counselors along with Michelle King, that hopefully we have created or generated more interest in enrolling in the CTE programs. And so if that's the case, then hopefully they can operate with 20 or more students per class at all of those levels.
Thank you, Dr. Bryce. Christina? Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I just had one more comment, and it was to Dr. Bryce's comment regarding auto. And back in the fall, I was having a nice conversation with Garrett over at JRA Auto Collision, and he was saying that COVID was really stressful for him, and he was looking for help. But he has to have qualified. He has to have somebody with some level of experience to provide any meaningful added benefit to the company. And so I do appreciate your idea of looking at the auto industry. I know we've got a number of auto body shops here in town, a number of repair shops, and one of the things that Garrett had mentioned over there was the iCar curriculum, which is a training and coursework curriculum that you could provide in school to students. And then a company like his might open up the shop in the afternoon to have students come over and get that real world hands-on experience, so that the district might not need to invest in all the things that would be required for an auto body or auto service. So I appreciate you mentioning that's something that you're interested in. I know the local businesses would love for us to get into that line of work and provide them a steady path of employees, because cars still get in accidents and need to get repaired, and engines still fail and need to get fixed. So I appreciate you looking into that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Christina Pereira, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment to all of the people in the audience. When Dr. Lyons showed her screen about the declining enrollment in some of the classes, as a educator in this district and a parent in another district, that doesn't necessarily bother me so much, because we're trying to give kids access to things they might be interested in. And so you see those numbers for those intro classes really, really high. And I think that that's great because we're giving students the opportunity to explore something at such an early stage for them to identify, oh, I thought I was going to like this, but I don't. So yeah, they might not be completing the course, but I think we're providing students with that opportunity so early on to realize, oh, I really thought I wanted to go into engineering. And after taking 1 or 2 courses, it's not for me. And I think that that has to be okay, because we're really doing what's best for kids and not waiting after graduation of high school for them to figure that out after they've gone to a couple of years of a tech school or, you know, a community or 4-year college. So that, I just wanted to point that out, that that's not necessarily long-term a bad thing, because what we're doing is still doing what's best for our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You make a very good point. Did you want to respond to that, Dr. Lyons, or are you comfortable with?
Yeah, so you know what, I'm actually going to jump in real quick. I think it still comes back to complete, in order to put it on your transcript, in order for it to be a selling point in the job market, you need to complete. And so I agree with Christina that high levels of participation in entry-level classes is a good thing. We want to open up access as much as possible. But I also agree with what Dr. Lyons mentioned about completion, that we need more students to complete, and we need to really find out the reasons why they're not completing that. If they're not completing because they are no longer interested. I took a class and I was like, yeah, okay, it was a nice class. I don't want to do that anymore, right? So that makes sense to me. What doesn't, what we haven't quite figured out is whether or not the decrease in completion is tied to a loss of interest, or is it because of I think Marge mentioned it, Madam Chair mentioned the issue with the schedule maybe not being as easy to schedule these students into particular classes. So these are all things that we need to look at.
I'm confident that we are, Dr. D, Dr. Bryce, Dr. Lyons. In your slide, you indicated that you would be looking at all of those things, and I don't think we can know it right away. Just as Dr. Lyons said, I think it's going to take a couple of years. We certainly ran the home building program for a couple of years before we ran out of students participating in it, and I like to know that we're giving it a fair shot so that everybody has the opportunity to try it. But I'll leave my own opinions to myself. That's all I wanted to say. Tara. Mrs. Thibodeau.
Yes, hello.
I'm sorry about the score.
I know they did lose, but it was a good fight. So I am very excited about this because I have 3 that went into the trades. They are successful in what they're doing. And what makes me excited about what Dr. Lyons is doing is the exposure and the opportunity. And we just had a meeting this afternoon about the home building program, and our district is going in the right direction. And what everyone else has been saying, we have to expose these kids to different trades and different opportunities because the world is changing and there's so many opportunities out there for them. So, good things are coming, and the home building program, the conversation that we had today, it is won't be back to where it was when it ended, building homes, but there will be a process, and there will be, we'll be looking to work with contractors in the local area to bring skilled laborers to our communities. So, this is all heading in the right direction, and I'm very excited. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Sarah? Sarah? You're still
Thanks.
muted. Oh, okay.
Dr. Lyons, I so appreciate the college and career emphasis. And I think that sometimes in these kinds of discussions, we get maybe a little stuck on the laboring side of things, which is also important, but the CTE programs encompass a much wider range of education than the things that the others have been talking about tonight, the home building, and somebody mentioned plumbing, or but for example, the engineering pathway can, just like your tree, lead in so many different directions. My son went through the engineering pathway. He got the STEM endorsement. He went into an engineering program. After 2 years, decided that wasn't for him. And now he is majoring in math. So, it's not just for CTE is such a wider umbrella. So I think that we need to remember that. And that is where the college and career comes in. So I think, I don't want us to forget that it's a much wider umbrella.
Thanks, Sarah. You're right. Anybody else? Yes, Erin. And then I'll get to you, Karen. I see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Lyons. You are such an impressive and engaging presenter. That was just awesome. So thank you. Really, really great. I too took some shop classes in high school, and unfortunately, this is just a quick aside. Unfortunately, I made a VHS tape holder and a wooden frame with a little place for a notepad to go around the kitchen phone. So they are now, I'm sure, in the museum, basement at my mom's old house. But anyways, I can see the value in all of these courses, and I'm so pleased. I know that we've been building up to this point for a long time. I know that Shanna Bloom and Dr. D and everyone has been putting a lot into this, and having you now here, Dr. Lyons, is just to grow this program and turn it into what we're talking about is just so exciting. I just have a couple of questions, and one is a couple of the community members who spoke brought up certain things, and I think plumbing was one of them. And we're talking about, I think you mentioned that we would look at where student interest lies. So I'm wondering how at the high school you gauge student interest in different potential programs. And also, I'm wondering, are these programs meant for students to jump in freshman year? Can students jump in junior year and still accomplish what they need to accomplish for the accreditations and the different things that you were talking about before graduation? Because I do agree that I think one of the issues with kids dropping off is probably that their interests change. And I think it's really difficult for, a 14-year-old coming in as a freshman or a 15-year-old to know exactly what they want to do. So, it's more of an experimental time still, even though they're out of middle school, which we kind of label as that experimental time. It's really high school and even college and beyond, where people are still exploring what they want to do. And then my other question was, I'm wondering, I know that we need the equipment and the technology in the classrooms for these programs that the industries are using today. And I'm wondering if all of the equipment and tech that we have for these programs is up to date, so that the skills that the kids learn in the classrooms can translate into work after. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for the kind words. So I'm gonna answer. The first is like, how do we build student interest? And the push right now is that that students really should be exploring and gaining interest in middle school. And so in middle school, we do currently have junior DECA And we do have the STEM courses that link to our STEM endorsement, bioscience, and our engineering pathways. But I would say, and on the CTE Charter Strategic Planning Committee, we're going to talk about, some goals around how to build student exploration earlier on. Because to get into your second question about, is it too late for a junior to get into a program and complete it? The answer is yes. They wouldn't be necessarily a program completer because the courses they have to take are year long. But that doesn't mean they're not going to get anything out of the courses, and they can still earn some of the industry credentials, because the courses they may take will have that the credential assessment within them. They just wouldn't earn that like the CTE program like seal. But so that led into the second question. Now the third question about equipment and technology is that the equipment and technology that they have in the CTE programs is, I would say it's in good condition. And when we took the tour, we know that the engineering room, they have the machines that they work on in use in the industry. And business and finance has DECA, and they have what they need. But that doesn't mean that we just say, hey, they have what we need, and we can't think about that. And that's another piece of the work that we're doing, is trying to figure out, kind of plan out that 3, 5, 7 years of equipment and technology replacement. And that's where, that funding really helps, is, it can help with purchasing equipment as well. So hope I answered your questions. Thank you.
Did. Thank you so much.
Karen?
Hi, thank you. I also liked the presentation, and I did think it definitely kept my attention. So my question was based a little bit on what Erin was asking in terms of the student interest. I'm just wondering, do you have surveys for the students to kind of get an idea of what they might be interested in? And I know during your presentation you said, I think you said 7 by 2024, and so those were the programs, and then the 2 pathways, 4 programs.
Sorry.
2 pathways.
Yeah. So the goal by 2024 would be 7 approved programs and at least 4 endorsement pathways.
Okay.
So yeah, just to answer your question, and maybe I didn't give it enough detail. So we do have student interest surveys through Naviance, which is what the students use in middle school and high school for their to build their ILP. So we do currently use those surveys, but we are obviously open to other measures in measuring student interests. So I think that's what we do right now. But I think opening up those and planning for more exploration in middle school, accompanied by surveys and specific counselor conversations with students will really help us understand what student interest looks like and build those pathways.
And if I can just add to what Dr. Lyons said, I think when we talk about an interest survey, it's not so much that we're interested in, that we're gauging, well, students are interested in engineering, or they're interested in medical, or they're interested in construction. The interest surveys identify students' strengths, weaknesses, personality traits, things like that, that then can help to point them in specific directions in which to explore. So I think that's an important distinction to make, that we're not, that it's not so much about, I'm interested in this career, within these specific surveys or questionnaires. It's, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are subjects or ideas or things that I really like. And then it helps them to kind of guide into which now careers they can explore. Does that make sense?
Awesome.
Thanks, Deb.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So you know what, just one of the answers, I just want to give a little clarity. So our equipment, and a number of us took that tour with Dr. Lyons, Dr. DiBiase, and some school committee members. Our equipment is in really good shape, but the fact that it's in really good shape in some instances hides the age of the equipment, right? So some of the heavy machinery that is in the engineering room, I am certain that some of those machines are 30, 40 years of age. And so from a machinist or machine operator perspective, it gives you the foundation, but it doesn't have the latest electronic components of manufacturing that our kids would get if they went up the street and did an internship at one of the local manufacturers, most likely. We also know that some of our, right, so Rose and her team have identified the age of life for some of the technology. And so we know that some of the technology is approaching 10 years, like in one of the labs. And so those are things that over time, we're gonna have to make sure that we switch out. And we'll do that as we provide the 5-year technology plan to Budget and Facilities Subcommittee first. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that there are going to need to be some investments in the technology to further support the good work that our staff and our students are doing to help them make sure that they remain current with what's taking place in the industry.
Thank you.
I see Dr. Santa's hand up.
If I could just make a couple of quick points. Dr. Lyons, excellent job. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Very well thought out. I just want to add, responding to the question about how we determine what programs students are interested in. A couple of the programs that are on our list for approval are programs that are very strong right now at the high school already. So we know there's a lot of student interest, like the bioscience courses. Those have been very popular with students, and a lot of students have gone into the medical field or biotech field as a result of that. So we knew that was something where we already had a lot of interest. Same thing with the construction program. Regarding technology, in the past couple of years, we've been fortunate to receive a couple of grants from Prepare RI and the Governor's Workforce Board. So if you're working on these programs that are in those high priority areas, it opens the door to special grants that come along for the specific purpose of buying equipment and technology to make sure that students have access to industry standard equipment. So I just wanted to throw that in there, and that's how we've been able to get the equipment necessary to keep our programs going.
Thank you, Dr. Santa. Yes, Nikki.
Sorry, I don't have the raise your hand button for some reason this evening. Dr. Lyons, I believe, and yes, I know this is putting a lot of pressure on you, but I believe that under your leadership, I think that this area of our work can be the thing that differentiates us across the state and leads us to the next level. And it's a combination of the work that's being done in the school buildings with the, specifically at the high school. And again, with your vision, I really do believe that this can move us to the next level. I know that a few of the pathways have some suggested prerequisites for middle school level. And I wonder what work we are doing to support the middle school as they kind of introduce these ideas and these concepts to our middle schoolers. And I think the biggest challenge there is going to be that at the middle school level currently, the students do not have a choice in the electives that they take because of scheduling issues. So I wonder how we can help develop those early interests and passion for these different areas of the pathways and CTE programs, starting with the younger kids, given those scheduling conflicts.
So I will jump in, and I think we don't have an answer for that. I think the schedule is a concern, both at the high school and the middle school, in regards to it really restricts in some ways, right? We know that there are certainly things that we are required to provide because of the BEP. I think it's something we need to look at, but I do think that the idea that middle school students, at least in 7th and 8th grade, can't choose at least one of their electives is something that we have talked about for probably over a year. It's a problem, but we don't have a solution for it yet. And part of the reason why you don't have a solution is because if you don't have enough kids, enough students that would actually fill up the roster for that entire period, in some cases, you have to put other students into that classroom. And some of those students, if it's the second time they're taking the same course, we can all imagine how engaged we would be if we had to take the same course 2 years in a row and we didn't like it the first time. And so that is something that we absolutely need to work through with Dennis and the admin team at the middle school, along with Dr. D and her team at the high school.
I trust that you all will do that and do it well and do it quickly. Please, as quickly as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
I need to move this on a little bit, but before I go to our second presentation, I need to go back to Mr. Cabral, who has something he needs to tell us all.
You're on mute.
You're muted, Vic.
I'm better off muted than speaking. Okay, anyway, I have to apologize to the girls' basketball team because apparently I had another sheet with some other names on it that I did not read. So I want to read the other girls' basketball all-stars, and they are Abby Rosino, Ariel Rodriguez, Isabel Savinon, and Elsa White. And I have one more comment to make, and that is the fact that Stephen St. Angelo had a teacher that knew that he was going to be successful somewhere, somehow. And though he may not have been a academic student, he definitely would be motivated to do something. So I don't want you people to think that Stephen was not a good student. In one class anyway, I can tell you he was a very good student and really should not have been in that student's class because he could have had any course above that and passed it also and done well, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cabral. I bet I absolutely agree with you. All right, we're going to move on to our second presentation, which all of you have had a taste of over the last week, but now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what we're doing, and that's reopening school this spring. So, Dr. Bryce, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Rose and Ryan to pop up that presentation, please. So as we begin, I need our entire community to remember a couple of points. Number one, that returning more students to school does not come without increased risk. And number two, that we can only return more students to school safely if we have the cooperation of parents, students, and staff, as everyone needs to work together as we undertake this next phase of reopening. Next slide, please. So So when we started this process, probably back in the summer, we talked about 4 things that we really wanted to focus on. Number one, first and foremost, is that we were going to let the science dictate exactly what we were going to do, that we would not do anything that we believed would jeopardize the health and safety of our students. We've done that, we continue to do it, and we will explain those modifications today. We also identified multiple options for teaching and learning, At the start of this year, those options were in person at the elementary level, distance learning at the elementary, middle, and high school level, and also hybrid at the middle school and high school because of space limitations. We also talk about engaging academics in social. SEL stands for social emotional learning, the support that we need for that. And we couldn't have done this without an increase in staffing and resources. Next slide, please. So as we focused on health and safety, the RIDO, the Rhode Island Department of Health, has continuously updated their playbook about what is permissible, what is not permissible. And we await another update from RIDO concerning transportation and the latest guidance from the CDC. We've also had the opportunity to participate with our school nurses and, as Nicole Lyons indicated, with our students. I've seen our students in action helping with the Binax testing at the high school. And that is required for our student athletes, encouraged for all other students and staff. And thankfully, staff have had the opportunity to receive vaccinations for COVID-19, to prevent COVID-19 or to mitigate its seriousness. The second shot is due to occur, I believe, this week. After that, there will be, after that 2 weeks, they will be fully covered. And we expect that to occur sometime around April the 14th. That's going to be important in terms of our timeline. Next slide. While we continue to work through this, one of the things that we and everybody needs to understand is that there will be moments when you get a call, you are likely to get a call from the school nurse or the school principal that says your child has potentially been exposed to another student or staff member that tested positive for COVID. As a result, we are going to have to, based on the health department guidance, we are going to have to remove that student from school. The health department is the entity that quarantines people. And so the quarantine is for 10 days. Next slide. All right. And so working with our nurses, we made a decision that based on the guidance that the most effective number of days to quarantine was 10. And that is what we've been doing. So remember, at the start of the school year, it was 14. We lowered that to 10. We believe that that has helped to limit the transmission of the virus in our particular schools. And many schools have adopted the 10-day window as well. Next slide. While we are making the decision to increase the number of students that are returning to school, it is critical that everyone in our school community understand that all of the mitigation strategies that we implemented at the start of the year will be maintained and that our focus on them will be increased. Let me remind, and let me first of all thank our students. When we started this over the summer, started planning and entered into the school in the fall, there was a lot of concern about whether or not students were going to be able to wear masks, how would they react. Our students have been exemplary. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that our young people are doing everything that we ask of them while they're in the building. And so we know that is a good starting place. We do need moms and dads and grandparents and anybody else responsible for children to make sure that they are screening children, screening their students before they walk into the building. And we also need staff to continue to do that screening. We're going to wear masks in our building. We also are going to maintain social distance, and we'll talk about that. We have completed a host of ventilation upgrades, installed air purifiers. We've also provided window fans. And so right now we're utilizing the air purifiers. As it gets warmer, I certainly expect that people are going to open their windows, put the fans back in the windows, creating more air circulation. If anybody wants to read the engineering reports about our buildings. They are posted on our district website. On the facilities page, there's something that talks about documents. Go right there and you can see them. And then finally, we're going to maintain the use of hand sanitizer stations and impress upon all of our young people the need for frequent hand washing. Next slide. It is important for all of our families to know that because of the change in the CDC guidance, it is very likely that more students may need to quarantine if there is a positive case. And so here's why. So when students were sitting 6 feet apart, there weren't people within that 6 feet circumference. Now there are. So those students and the other students that are at 6 feet would also likely have to be quarantined. And that is a decision that the health department makes in conjunction with our school nurse. They tell the principal what the decision is, and then we implement. Next slide. So let's talk about the new CDC guidance. We included it in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint will be posted on our website. So here's the key decision point for the CDC. The CDC looked at guidance, and there are a number of studies. I think we shared one of those studies. There's a huge study out of Massachusetts that examines over 240 different school districts, 500,000 students, 99,000 staff members, and they were able to identify that there is no significant difference in transmission rates for students sitting in classrooms 6 feet apart or 3 feet apart. And so that is the research study, one of the research studies that has driven the CDC's updated guidance. Now, it does not mean that you should have 3 feet in all situations, and we'll explain what some of those are. The new guidance also removes the recommendation for physical barriers. We never purchased physical barriers. I know that some schools did, in the belief that the physical barriers would help to alleviate transmissibility of the virus. We didn't believe that because there wasn't a lot of science that supported it. And the CDC has come down on the side, on our side in that regard. They clearly clarify the importance of ventilation as a strategy to clean and maintain healthy facilities. They talk about community transmission and the added guidance on clusters when interventions potentially need to occur. Next slide. So let's, as Marge mentioned, our chairperson mentioned, let's get to the nuts and bolts of what we're really talking about reopening. Next slide. And I know we've got a bunch of teachers that are joining us today. I know principals have shared information with them. If there is information that they haven't, I'm sure that they will give an update either tomorrow or sometime this week. Let's start with the elementary. Ryan, can you pop open the elementary plan? Okay, Ryan or Rose? Yep, here we go. Got it. All right.
Could you make it a little larger, please? Thank you.
All right. So here's what we have at the elementary level. So based on feedback from our parents, Coach Andrews expects 36 students to return from distance learning to their in-person education. And we look at all of the different class sizes. There will be, at the elementary level, there will be about 4 or 5 classes where there will be a teacher that will be teaching both students that are in person and students that are synchronous. It is not widespread, but in some instances it does occur. At Colt Andrews, the desks will be are moving from 6 feet to 3 feet. So they're putting additional desks into the classrooms. Because the CDC guidance is very clear, the guidance requires that if you are eating, there should be 6 feet of distance between students. And so as a result, students at Colt Andrews will resume lunch in the cafeteria with 6 feet of spacing, and that is due to begin once they return. If you scroll up, let's look at Gutierrez. Gutierrez expects to return 11 of their students. The desks in the classrooms will be anywhere from 6 feet to 4 feet of distance. Most of them will likely be 5 feet, but clearly that's within the guidelines established by the CDC. All classes at Gutierrez will eat in the lunchroom with 6 feet of spacing. And you know, again, in many of these places, we are adding desks. We are being nimble and adaptable where we need to be. Next school, Rockwell. At Rockwell expects 16 students to return. The desk at Rockwell will stay at 6 feet. We are reconfiguring a first grade classroom, removing extra furniture. All students at Rockwell will continue to eat in their classrooms, maintaining 6 feet of distance. And then Hugh Cole, slide up, please. Hugh Cole expects to return 25 students. This is another place where 2 of their teachers, right? So 2 here and 2, I believe, at Colt Andrews, where there will be 2 teachers that are teaching students both in the classroom as well as some students from a distance. The desk at Hugh Cole will remain 6 feet apart, and the students will continue to eat in their classrooms. All right, Ryan, thank you. Let's pull up KMS, please. All right, so at KMS, in grade 6, we expect 175 students to return to in-person. The average number of students per class is going to be 15. We know that they are adding virtuals to each section. Students that previously were, that will remain on distance learning will be added to each section. There was some discussion today with BWEA leadership. And so we certainly will continue to follow up on that with our school-based administrators tomorrow. Grade 7, 178 in-person students, and back to an average of 15 students per class, with some of those distance learning students spread throughout. And then grade 8, 159 students are expected to return to in-person, average of 13 students per class, with virtuals are added. So desks will move from 6 feet to 3 feet. And so we have added those additional desks. Lunch will be provided in the cafeteria with 6 feet of spacing. We are also adding additional capacity for lunch in the gymnasium. So what it means is that due to inclement weather, if PE classes need to come inside, they will be in classrooms somewhere participating in health. No transition. Students at the middle school will stay put in their classrooms. Teachers will continue to rotate. All right, next slide. Pop up the high school, please. And the other thing that really all of our schools are working through is a gradual transition of students that have been identified as needing with a certain academic socio-emotional profile. So we are starting to gradually get more students back into the building. Thank you, Ryan. All right, and so at Mount Hope High School, which certainly is the most, is the schedule that has the most complexity. Phase 1 is, we're currently right now in phase 1, March 23rd through April the 16th. Here's what we're doing. So we are transitioning some of our kiddos, as I call them, back into the building right now, 4 days per week, based on that academic and/or social emotional learning profile. We expect that beginning on Tuesday, April the 27th, seniors, all of our seniors and our parents who want their senior to return to in-person school through the end of the school year will be able to return. And so they're going to be there that Tuesday and Wednesday, along with the other students that are on the hybrid schedule for that week. On Thursday, April the 29th, the hybrid students, all of the seniors that want to return to in-person will be joined by the freshmen who want to return for in-person, and they will be there on Thursday and Friday. And then on Monday, May the 3rd, the juniors and sophomores, along with the freshmen and seniors, will return. We expect at KMS that we're going to have approximately 500 students of the 700 return in person. And at Mount Hope, we expect right around 680 to 700 of the students returning to in person. If you scroll down, Ryan, or scroll up, sorry, here's what it looks like right now, right? So we are adding we're phasing in some students right now. Scroll down or scroll up, sorry. And this is a calendar. I think Dr. D has already sent this out to her families, and if not, it will go out very in the near future. That really talks about what it's going to look like. All seniors on the 27th and 28th of April, all freshmen, along with all seniors on the 29th and 30th, and then all students on May the 3rd. All right, thank you, Ryan. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. While he's doing that, the other thing I want to mention is that at the elementary level, and I did not mention this, we want to help to transition all of our elementary students back into the building that would like to return. And so that will occur on April the 15th and 16th, which is after any staff members that were vaccinated will have full coverage 14, by April the 14th. And so we're bringing those elementary students back on April the 15th and 16th. And then we have the April break. After the April break, all of the elementary students that want to return, whose parents want them to return, can return. So here are a summary of the changes to bring more students back in the spring of 2020. Desks can be spaced anywhere from 3 to 6 feet apart per CDC guidance. All students will either eat in classrooms, cafeterias, or gyms, maintaining 6 feet of distance per the guideline. I cannot impress upon that enough. Masks will be off. Students may be talking in conversational tones. We need to make sure that we are maintaining 6 feet of distance. All schools will offer in-person and distance learning options. I know there's been a buzz about what are you doing with hybrid? We'll talk about that for a moment. And then finally, we know that elementary distance learning students are returning to their home schools. These students may join established in-person classrooms, or they may join their teachers in a newly established synchronous learning environment. These two options are dependent upon the specific grade level and the specific school the children attend. So if you have questions, please email the school principal, and the principal will get back to you and be able to provide you with specific details. All of our principals are here, so if we have specific questions for not for an individual student, but for a school, they will weigh in and be able to answer. Next slide, please. So let's talk about hybrid learning at KMS and at Mount Hope. So one of the things that I've gotten some feedback is that some parents, some students may want hybrid learning as an option. And so initially I was 100% opposed to the idea that we would do that, because there's a level of complexity to determining which students belong in the building, which students are in the building every day. And so having the two options is certainly, from a logistics perspective, it is much easier for both of those schools. But after contemplating it, here's what I've come up with, which I believe should address if there are any parents, any students that are concerned about the full return in these two buildings and are thinking about, all right, is there a middle ground? So while we are not offering hybrid learning for all students, so it's not open to just anybody who chooses, we will discuss it on a case-by-case basis due to a student's unique academic or social emotional circumstances. Here's what we're asking. Parents, email the principal and myself as the superintendent, and then we will review and we will get back to you and we will handle your request on a case-by-case basis. Hybrid learning is, and I recognize the reason why some parents may want that they don't want their kid to return for a full 5 days, but that is why many of the students are returning for 2 days in 1 week, or a number of days 1 week, and then building up to that. And so hopefully that will address the concerns about hybrid learning. Next slide. So let's talk about certainly the academics. Let me talk about our teachers, and let me talk about teachers, administrators, and other school staff. So I am absolutely very proud of the work that our teachers, our administrators, our custodians, secretaries, TAs, district administrators have done to get us through this point. Their work has been nothing short of heroic. They have spent countless hours working with students, working with each other to make sure that at every time when we needed to shift, we were able to shift and that students would be taken care of. So I just want to say to everybody, I am so proud of the work that each and every one of you has done. Having said that, I'm going to ask for a little bit more. And here's what we're going to talk about. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit more. And by the way, I said that, and as soon as I see this slide, I see this other group of people that I didn't think. So let me thank social workers, psychologists, school counselors, the student advocate, the nurses. I'm sorry, you know what? So I am certain that I missed somebody, but if I did, it is not because I don't recognize the hard work that everyone in the school community is doing. But thank you to everyone. But I need just a little bit more from everybody. So here's what I need. I need our school social workers, our psychologists, counselors, student advocate to get together. I have tasked Ed Clark, the Director of Student Services, for these individuals to work and to develop lessons for elementary, middle, and high school students. One lesson for each grade level. It may be more at the elementary level, maybe a K-2 lesson and a 3 to 5 lesson. One lesson every week. And those lessons are going to really be focused on ensuring that our students are socially, emotionally well. I think it is critically important as we try to bring kids back that we are not only addressing and focused on the academic portion of this, but we're also focused on their mental health, their emotional wellness, and that we're providing them support. Those weekly lessons will be provided to our classroom teachers. Our classroom teachers will have the opportunity to implement those lessons so they don't have to design them. They're going to come packaged ready to go. All they have to do is stand and deliver. We certainly know that our teachers will have the ability to do that. Those weekly lessons will be administered through advisory at KMS in Mount Hope. And we believe that this is another step in helping our young people to process the last 13 months. In many cases, our kids are going to be fine, but we know that it has been a stressful time for us all. We just want to make sure that we are attending to this part of their education to make sure that they're well-rounded. Next slide. So just as a summary, the dates of return for elementary students, April the 15th, at KMS, April the 26th, and at Mount Hope, we begin with our seniors on April the 27th and 28th. Freshmen are April the 29th and 30th, all grades May 3rd. May 3rd, so what that really means is the last, the very last, and we're having some discussions, but I'm gonna just put it out there, the last Monday virtual or distance learning support day, that last one will be on April the 26th. We are going to work with the Mount Hope administration and the teachers to figure out how we're going to continue to support our distance learning students. But I need that day. I need kids back in the building, working with teachers that day in a stronger manner than the virtual support days. I think they have been successful, so we need to migrate them to something else. We certainly promise that we are going to deliver on that for our distance learning students. Next slide. Transportation is going to be a cause of concern. I was on the phone today with our bus contractor. And so here's what we know. Spaces on buses are currently limited due to the COVID restrictions. This is, once again, I think we need to put out a call to action for our parents to start thinking about alternative transportation for their students. If they're returning to in-person learning, if the student has already been riding the bus, they still have their seat, nothing has changed. But certainly if you are returning from distance learning, or you are one of those hybrid students that is now going to be attending every day, if you were riding the bus one day for your couple of days and because you were home, it means that we, in some cases, may be doubling the number of students that need to ride the bus, but we don't have the capacity. We are waiting for the Department of Education, the Department of Health to update school transportation guidelines. And we do not know when that will occur, but we hope that it will occur at some point. Even when the guidelines will be updated, and there's talk of moving from 50% utilization to 75%. In some cases, it's going to add maybe 6 or 7 seats, 6 or 7 new occupants to a particular bus or that route. And so we do not believe that we're going to have full capacity. And so that is something that we would ask parents to think about. Are there ways to carpool or other things if you could do it safely to get young people to and from school? Next slide. And with that, I will turn it back over to our chairperson for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Bryce. This is kind of an exciting time. And this week when we meet, we need to talk about when we're going to meet in the cafeteria again as a school committee with some Zoom in the background for those who can't come. I'll entertain questions from the school committee first, and then I'll go to the public. Does anybody in the school committee have a question about what Dr. Bryce just said? And just for your information, you're all muted. Carly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bryce. I wanted to also thank all the administrators and all the other folks that were contributing to putting this plan together. As you had mentioned, it's a momentous lift, lots of moving parts. But I'm very excited to see that we're at this point. As I had mentioned to you earlier, Dr. Bryce, in a handful of emails, thank you for addressing the concerns I've heard from lots of community members about kids and families that might not be ready to go all the way back. So knowing that that's an option for a handful is great. I still worry a little bit about other families. It's tough to have black and white options in such a gray time. So I just wanted to mention that I'm glad that there are choices. I do worry about the kids that choose at home. I know lots of families have concerns about safety still and have to address the individual needs of their own family. I do wish that there was a way that we could have a more robust hybrid program, but I understand the difficulties it involves. I'm also had mentioned to Dr. Bryce too the possibility of maybe keeping the distance learning Mondays, but I'm not sure if that's possible. I want to make sure that we're not forgetting about our kiddos at home that choose at home. So thank you.
You're welcome. I would just, 2 comments to that. Certainly, I received a number of emails that raised the very point from you and from members of the community that were very concerned about having some hybrid option. And so I, like many things that we have to do, what you try to do is walk a very narrow path straight down the center where you're able to get more kids back in, but get them back in safely, but allow just enough flexibility that it works for parents and guardians and students that absolutely need it. And so we think we've done that. If anybody needs to eat, just copy your principal, email me, and we'll start those conversations. And the good thing about this is we have about a month to get this accomplished. And so we're going to have a number of conversations with parents that are concerned with the staff. I told Dr. D today that I know that the leadership, the faculty leadership at Mount Hope wanted to speak with us, speak with me as well as my leadership team. And so we're going to make ourselves available. We will certainly, we'll talk to all of our faculties if they request it. The other thing that I would mention is this idea about safety. So I would just say to the community, I think all of us, having lived through the last 13 months, safety is first and foremost our #1 priority. And it is only because I believe that we can trust the CDC guidance based on the studies that I've seen, that I would even be making this make this recommendation to the school committee. But having said that, it doesn't mean that it's going to work if our young people don't continue to wear masks, if we don't continue all of the mitigation strategies, that if a student is not feeling well, please stay home. Moms and dads and guardians, you got to keep them home if they're under the weather, and we will figure out how to make sure that they can get their work. All right. And because we have so much technology, we think that could also be a continued opportunity for them. So thank you.
Thank you also for your willingness to be flexible and respond to the whims and the requests of not only school committee members, but also the district. I appreciate your willingness to be flexible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Nikki.
Thank you, Dr. Bryce. I had sent you some questions that I got from members of the community, and you answered many of them in this presentation. I do know that the transportation is going to be an issue. I mean, I'm one parent who, and I know there's plenty who the days that all of my kids are in school, because they're in 3 different schools, I did the math today and I'm in the car for literally 3 hours every day, getting the 3 there and the 3 home, which 2 days a week is possible. Unfortunately, 5 days a week, that's not going to be possible, just given that I have a job. And I know that a lot of people are in that same position. So I do think that that's going to be an issue. I had one parent who reached out saying that with full in-person and full distance, she had some concerns that with teachers teaching both those kids at home and those kids in the classroom, with an increased number of kids in the classroom, there was some concern about the teacher managing those kids that were in the classroom while they were also having to look at their computer. Have you any comment on that?
Here's my comment. It is the exact same question that Ed Clark and I received from, or comment that we received from BWEA earlier this afternoon. And is it going to be a challenge? Absolutely. So none of us, we should not paint this portrait that is, or this picture that it's going to be easier to do what we are embarking to do or endeavoring to do, because it's not. It's going to be difficult. It's another sea change in how teachers and TAs and administrators are operating, and there are going to be some growing pains. There are going to have to be some adjustments. We're going to have to spend more time with classroom management than we have over the last 13 months. And so it is going to be something that we're going to have to watch. I am confident that our school administrators will continue to work with our teachers and be very present as we have more young people in buildings, and be able to help in those rare cases where we may have a classroom management issue. But can I just tell you, I think our teachers by and large have really great classroom management. And I think our young people are so excited to get back. I think we're going to have a period of time where we're going to be able to reinstitute those great rituals and routines and structures into classrooms that are going to make this work. Does it come with potential obstacles? Absolutely, but I think it's going to work. And in those places where it doesn't, I am certain that school administrators, district admin, that we will be there to just offer support. But I think everybody just wants to get back into school as much as possible. And I think that spirit of we're just glad we're back is going to help us to reinstitute the good strategies that we've been using all along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The other question was a concern, because in the fall, I know that there was a lot of problem because there weren't enough adults in the buildings at times. And we had a problem getting enough substitutes and so on. And this parent was wondering if potentially more teachers will have to be quarantined because of the close contact. Will we struggle, given that we'll have even more students in the buildings, therefore need more adults, and will we struggle to fill those spots?
Well, so I hope Ellen is here. Ellen, are you with us? Because I hope I'm not about to say something that is medically incorrect. But my understanding is that the new guidance is that individuals that are fully vaccinated, if they are a close contact, do not need to quarantine, i.e., there was somebody in the building that we have a confirmed case, but if you were near them, it doesn't mean that you have to go home. That is why it was so critical for the state to prioritize educators across districts all across the state to get vaccinated. Now, having said that, let me also admonish my team, everybody in the district. I need the adults to stay away from each other. All right. So no, we're not having lunch together in the lunchroom, right? Right, which is a problem. We need to continue to maintain 6 feet of distance, all right, and get through the next 7 weeks.
That makes sense. And then finally, there were a lot of parents who said they want their kids back in full time, no questions asked. So that survey, I think, was very easy for those parents to complete. There were also parents who it wasn't that easy. There was more of a gray area, and they felt that they couldn't complete the survey, which was very much, fully in person or fully at home. They couldn't answer that question without more information, which hopefully they have now. So I know the high school survey at least sort of expired. Will there be, so those parents did not complete the survey. Will there be an opportunity for them to complete it now? And what is the drop dead date for parents to tell their building leadership their choice?
So here's what I would say. We're probably not going to reopen a survey because every time you reopen, it just completely changes the count. But here's what we're going to do. If there is a parent that has not communicated their intention to their school, please email your principal and let your principal know. And your principal is actually, and your principal's team, they are keeping a list so they know. I do think, to your point, Mrs. Piper, I just think there are some parents that are clearly very supportive of getting more kids back into school and are less concerned with the science behind this. And there are other parents that are absolutely very consumed with making sure that they understand the science, understand the mitigation strategies, and what's going to happen. I think some of those parents need to utilize the option of talking to the principal, talking to myself and my team, and figuring out what's the best course of action. So people can email me, I will get back to you. My goal is always 24-hour return, and I will get back to you and figure out what we need to do next.
So is there a default if you don't hear from parents? Because we know that, sometimes people get caught up in life and they don't reach out to the principal. So if you have kids that are currently learning in the hybrid model and you do not hear from those parents, is there a default?
I would think the default is that they're going full distance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions before I turn it over to the audience? Yes, Tara. You're muted, Tara.
My first statement is I am very excited that these children will be returning on April 26th. My only one question is, why is the high school not starting? And if you answered the question and I missed it, I apologize, but why are we not starting everyone on Monday, the 26th for the high school? That's my first question.
Yeah, so, all right. So the reason why we're not starting everyone on Monday, April the 26th is that the high school wants to phase students in. And so we are phasing students in over a week. And so some kids are coming in on the 27th and 28th, our seniors, so they get more support for those 2 days, and then they'll be in the rest of the week. We bring freshmen in, and then the next Monday, we bring everybody in.
But why?
Just because.
What was the reasoning?
Yeah, so the reason is we didn't think that it was a good idea to have, 800 kids show up on the 26th and walk into a building. We actually thought that we needed to phase students in. And so that's why the recommendation was made, and I approved the recommendation.
Well, and as many parents that have stated concerns with returning to school, many parents are concerned that we are not going back, the high school is not going back, because these children
they need to go back? Why aren't we starting before April vacation then for the phasing piece of it?
So
I know that there are PD days.
I don't know what time you move from the phone to in the house, but I can tell you that if you look at the high school plan, we are actually phasing students in. We're bringing back about 40 students per week to the high school, and we started that on March the 23rd. And so we are identifying students that have either an academic or social-emotional profile that would warrant them returning to school. Dr. DiBiase and her team are reaching out to those parents and students and getting those kids back in. So by the time we get to April the 27th, they will have already returned approximately 150 kids to the building.
That's great. Do you think that we could possibly, when you are talking with the high school, possibly think about starting Monday, the 26th with the seniors, Tuesday with the freshmen, Wednesday with the, so that the phase in is a little bit quicker, so that we have everyone in school by Friday?
Okay, so I'm just going to push back, and I'm going to say the initial recommendation was actually a 2-week phase in. I cut it down to a week.
I know that other school districts in the state are doing it a little bit quicker.
I can't speak for what other school districts say. You will never hear me.
Is it
speak about
possible to
them.
just have that conversation, that possibly getting those kids,
phasing
it in quicker?
I think we are phasing it in as quickly as we possibly should. Will I bring it up? I will bring it up. I am certain that there will not be. So let me just say, I don't believe bringing students in quicker is the right thing to do. So let me just go on record and say that. Will I bring it up? I'll bring it up, and it's not going to go anywhere.
So my second question is, if students are absent, so I know that now if you are supposed to be in school, you can no longer choose to stay home. You have to be in school or you're marked absent. And many of our students have chosen to do the hybrid but stay home these days.
Which is a problem, by the way.
Which is a huge problem. I completely agree. And many students don't really, their absences, will they still be able to participate in the classes if they are absent? So I know that we are still live streaming the classes. So if you are absent that day, will you still be able to participate in the classes?
So we discussed that when I had principals this afternoon. I think it was 3:30. It is a huge point of contention at both the middle school and the high school. And frankly, it creates a perverse incentive. It creates an incentive that allows students, for any number of reasons, to not attend school, but then to log in. I think at some point, we need to be very clear that if you are a student who has said you are going to be in person, if you do not attend school, you absolutely need to begin the process of marking the student absent. So that's just a record keeping thing. And by the way, it is going to be, it is attendance record keeping is always complicated. And so it just makes it more complicated. So let's talk about the issue of, is there an opportunity for the student to learn? And as an educator, do I want the student not to fall behind? Yes, as an educator, I do not want the student to fall behind, but also as an administrator, here's my problem. If students could stay home, even though they're supposed to be in the building and not, and there is no consequence for that behavior, then what happens is it drives the type of behavior that we don't want to see. So we will continue to talk about it. We do not have a solution, but I can tell you that it has been raised as a concern that we have a number of students that even in the hybrid, we're supposed to be in school. Oh, I missed the bus. Oh, I don't feel well. A host of other things that in some cases are not verified by their parents, and they are absent from school. So it is a concern. I don't have a good answer right now, but I can tell you that if I were forced to make a decision, I would mark the students absent. I would not allow them to log in the hope that it would prevent the type of just teenage, if I can stay home, I would stay home, as opposed to having to get up and get dressed and go to the building. We need them in the building. That's what we want.
No, I agree. I completely agree with you. We need them in the building. They need to be in the building. I'm wondering though, so would it be the responsibility of the teachers to make sure that they don't log in if they're marked absent?
We have, you know what? Thankfully, we've got 4 weeks, and so we've got a lot of time to work through that. I don't know how we would operationalize it. And part of me, there's part of me as a high school teacher that doesn't want kids to fall 2 days behind. But the other thing I want to do is make sure that we have the right incentives so that we're getting them into the building.
Is there a consequence for absences?
I mean, yeah.
I know athletes have one.
Yeah. So yeah, you're missing learning, right?
No. I understand the missing learning if you're not doing the hybrid, but do we have a consequence for students? Normally it's, you go to, I can't think of the word right now, but
what, like detention or Saturday school or something?
Right.
Or
I don't know.
truancy
If you have so many absences, is there a consequence? I mean, I'm just wondering because athletes have a consequence. You can't go to practice or you can't go to the game, but students who are not, is there a consequence?
So, you know what? So I actually spoke with Manny today. Manny popped into my office, our truancy officer. And while you can make the argument that maybe you would potentially involve students and families in truancy court, I think that is an option that is really at the far end of what we want. And it's not what we want to do this year. So let me just say, this year, our goal has to be for the remainder of the year, let's get as many kids that want to return into the building as much as possible. Let's not talk about consequences. Let's talk about ways that we can engage them and help them to want to be here. I do think that, the high school and middle school, we will continue to talk about whether or not we would allow students to log in if they are supposed to be present and are absent. And we'll come up with a practice that we'll utilize for the remainder of the year. What I'm concerned about, however, is that there may be some kids who have an adverse reaction to that. And the adverse reaction to that is that, okay, well, you know what? I couldn't make it to school. I believe it's a logical or a reasonable excuse, and they still won't let me log in. So I'm just going to walk away and I'm not going to do anything, which exacerbates the problem. So somehow we've got to find a way to help kids get to the building. And when they're absent, we have to find a way to help them get their work.
And they'll be allowed to, if say they have to quarantine for COVID, or if they have a legitimate illness, we would let them.
Yeah, the legitimate absences are not the concern. I think in the scenario you painted, it's the kid who's supposed to be physically in the building and is just not.
Has become a habit of their bedroom.
Yep.
So Dr. Bryce, when you, Tara brought up some good questions. When you figured this all out, would you send it out to us so we know what your plan is and what your plan of attack is for the kinds of quirks that are coming up right now that we don't really have answers to?
Yep. I
see my school committee members, but Aaron's first, then Karen, then Vic. Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a number of questions, but I just have to say, I feel like there are so many generalizations getting thrown out tonight that I'm just like, completely taken aback. I mean, we're sitting here saying these kids and they, like all these kids are the same. I mean, we're, out of one breath, we're saying that all night long. And, we sit here other nights and we're like, everyone's different. We have to serve all students and consider the needs of all students. Not every student. It's not good for every student to go back right now. That's just not true. Not all students are the same. I appreciate that my colleague would like for all of the students to go back, but I think it's entirely unfair to say that all the students need to be back. It's just not the case. And frankly, I'm actually really happy to hear that there will be at least a case-by-case basis for the hybrid, because if we're seriously talking about continuing to acknowledge the mental health and wellness of our students, it's not mentally healthy for all students to go back all at once like some people think. It's just not. Every kid, like every adult, like every human being is different. Transition for some is better. For some kids, staying in, a model where they've been in it the whole year because they are a person who needs consistency is really important for their mental health and well-being. And so I just do not think this is a situation where we should be throwing around generalizations at all. It's really upsetting to me. And I think a transition is absolutely in order. I also, as a point of order, would like to say or question that when a school committee member, any school committee member, makes a directive to the superintendent, there needs to be some kind of a discussion or vote among the committee at a raise of hands if this is the direction we're going in. Because if this is a discussion where there is no vote of the school committee and individuals are making directives that not everyone or the majority agrees on, I think that is an issue. A couple of my questions are, I think the answer is no, but just to clarify, well, first of all, I would just like to have some idea of how many teachers, admin staff are going to get vaccinated or have been vaccinated, if we can even know that. If we can't because of HIPAA laws or whatever,
Counselor?
I'm guessing we can't require that this happens, because I do understand that, if teachers and staff and admin are vaccinated, then, we won't have the same kind of problems we have had throughout this whole time with covering classes, right? But I don't know what those numbers look like. So I'm just curious about that. I'm also concerned that with the move from 6 feet to 3 feet, in some of these schools, I'm just concerned that if more kids presumably will need to be quarantined when they're a close contact of a positive test, a student who tests positive, how will that work? Because then those kids are just going home when the push is to go for full in person. Like, what is that? And that leads me to what I think someone else mentioned this concern earlier. What is going to be in place for these kids who are home? Because we cannot tell parents what they have to do in this situation. So there are some parents who are going to want to either pull their kids out entirely at this point or stay. Or, I guess that's the only option, unless they qualify for the case-by-case hybrid situation. But I understand Virtual Monday worked for some people, didn't work for others, but my understanding is that for the full distance kids, it was very useful. So I'm wondering, since there may be more kids who are home full-time, not in the hybrid, what do those supports look like? I know you said you're working on it, but I don't know what that looks like. And I'm really concerned about those kids.
So let me take your questions. Oh, go ahead, Mary Ann.
Okay, so I want to answer your question about, can we find out how many people are vaccinated? Dr. Bryce and I had a conversation about this several weeks ago. We can certainly ask if the teachers or the staff will share with us whether they have been vaccinated or not, but we can't mandate that they tell us, again, because it would definitely be a HIPAA violation. So it would be nice to know. It would be nice if the staff shared that with us, but they are under no requirement to tell us yes or no. And we cannot make them any more than we can make them get vaccinated. So that's the answer to the first question. In terms of your 3 to 6, this is the whole change in what the Department of Health and the CDC have come out with in the last couple of weeks, where they're telling us that recent studies have shown that there really isn't a lot of difference between a 3-foot or a 6-foot distance as long as the kids are having masks on. We have nothing better to go on other than what they're telling us. And as I said, now it's a push to get all schools open, and the 3-foot distance is a way to get more children into the classroom. And the CDC now is saying that that is safe. So I think we need to go on what we're being told as schools. Dr. Bryce?
Yeah, so thank you. I think the question about more students potentially, right? So every single day we are waiting to find out if there is a student or a staff member who tests positive. And basically what you're looking at and what the health department guidance focuses on is what is the 6 feet, the 6 feet surrounding that individual, right? What the health department has really started doing is not even worrying about the 6 feet diameter around that individual, right? So you've got one student sitting directly in the middle, 6 feet around that student, the diameter. They're not even worried about that. You know what they're now doing? They're asking a couple of questions, and I thought I saw Julie Perry, right? You know what they're asking us? Were the students masked or unmasked? Because it makes a difference. If they had their mask on, then maybe they're just taking that 6 feet of diameter. But if they find out like that the kids had their mask off because they're eating a snack or something, you know what they tell us? We're taking the entire class. They're putting them on quarantine just out of an abundance of caution. Julie, did I get that about right? Thumbs up? Yep. All right. So here's what it means. In those schools where there is going to be a reduction from 6 feet of distance in classrooms to 5 at Gutierrez or 4 at Gutierrez, or at KMS, we're going from 6 feet of distance to 3 feet. It is very likely that if we have a positive case, that more students in that particular room would be identified by the health department as a close contact and would need to be placed on quarantine, right? And so this is, remember how I started this conversation, that this conversation and this movement is not without risk. It is certainly, thank you, Julie. It is certainly something that means that more students potentially could be impacted, and not necessarily that they would actually be exposed to the virus, but that they potentially could be exposed to the virus. And that's, as a parent, we have to get comfortable with that level of risk. And I can't make that decision for parents. All I can tell parents is that we're doing everything in our power to follow the mitigation strategies that have been outlined, and we are going to adhere to the science that the CDC has put out that is backed by that research study out of Massachusetts.
Mark, I have 2 more questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, we're just running out of time here, so.
I'll be super quick. I've got them written down.
Okay, thanks.
I'm curious to know why it looks like sophomores and juniors are being phased in together and the other classes separate. I want to know if there was consideration given to having space in between when people get back from traveling potentially for spring break and the return to school, because I know that other districts, I don't know about Rhode Island, but I've been reading in the paper nationwide, there are districts who are putting a space in between, like a week of virtual learning, because people may travel. And then also, and you can do this, Dr. Bryce, in an email, and I would hope you'd send it out to the full committee if anyone else needs clarification, but I don't quite understand what you are referring to as synchronous learning environments and would like to know more about that.
Yep, so synchronous is just really, it means that we are teaching students both in the classroom and online at the same time.
But only in some schools, right? This is the thing I don't understand.
So we've been doing this at the elementary and high school level all along, right? In many cases, but this is going to be new for those 4 teachers at the elementary level, just 4 out of all of the teachers.
Here's what I'm going to do, Dr. Bryce. I'm going to let Karen ask her questions and anybody else on the school committee, and then we're going to carry this over to the next workshop, because that gives you 2 more weeks to have it much more much clearer based on all of the questions that the school committee has asked. And you also may be able, the CDC may have also drilled down on the school buses and some of the other issues that people are talking about. So we'll collect all these questions. Some I'm sure you've already gotten, and some you're getting for the first time, some that I've heard for the first time. And we can consolidate it and finish it on our next workshop, because we still won't have we still won't really be bringing students back by the workshop.
Correct.
Except for the ones that you have already brought back. So if my colleagues don't have any issue with that, I would prefer that the conversation continue. But I would also prefer that Dr. Bryce get an opportunity to put his report together, having heard from all of the members of the school committee. And with that, I'll go to, so wait a minute, Brian, I'm not going to entertain the audience tonight. I'm going to have to entertain you at the workshop. I can't hear you, Brian. You're muted. Brian, you're muted.
I can't. Yeah.
Thank you. Can everybody see that? Anyway, that's my Monday. In any case, I just wanted to say, Marge, very quickly, that on behalf of the BWEA, we have been in conversation with Dr. Bryce. We've had 2 very spirited conversations already, and we have compiled a list of questions and concerns from teachers that we shared with Dr. Bryce earlier today. So I think it's an excellent idea to continue the discussion, because I know a lot of people were here hoping to be able to pose some questions and so forth. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I think there's already been a very good discussion. I wrote down a number of notes from a number of things that people said, members of the committee said in the discussion. And if anybody on the committee would be interested in seeing that list of concerns and questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Karen?
I'll be quick.
No, you take your time. You're fine.
I was just wondering if the nurses are provided, I mean, once the kids come back, if the teachers are able to provide the nurses with seating charts, like classroom, like seating.
Yeah, so we've got seating charts. We've got seating charts for classrooms. They will update that. We've got seating charts for buses. We have gotten the bus to consistently update that, because every once in a while it falls behind. So I think they're giving us new seating charts every time a new student gets on the bus, so that they'll have to do that. There are going to be seating charts in the cafeteria We want to be as structured as possible so that we know exactly where kids are, because that's how you need that in order to do the contact tracing. And our nurses have done a phenomenal job giving that information to the health department.
Okay, my second part is just that earlier when we were talking about would the kids be able to log on if they're home, if they were supposed to be in school? And I mean, I think you have legitimate concerns about that. I just wanted to know if you could just for the kids that, and I think Tara, you mentioned it at the end, that may have to quarantine because they were a close contact. That's a lot of time for them to miss, you know, in school. Would that be an option for them while they're in quarantine?
So let me just be very clear that the hypothetical that Mrs. Thibodeau mentioned was not about students that are quarantined, because those students would certainly be able to log in. The hypothetical was about the student who's supposed to be in school but stays home. And then that's when I was able to go through all of the thought process and the conversations that I've had with middle school and high school team administrative teams about the difficulty of getting some of those students, certainly not all. And remember, I started this part of the conversation saying our students, by and large, have done a great job wearing masks, doing the things that we need them to do. But I can tell you that it's clear that we've got some students that we need to see. And here's the other thing about bringing kids into the building. So first of all, just to completely answer your question, if you are placed on quarantine, you absolutely would be logging. You are allowed to log in. So we're not doing anything like that would prevent you from doing that. But here's another reason why kids need to be in school. And I think over the 13 months, everyone in our country understands this, and probably across the world. And we talked about it today. You know what happens at schools, right? What happens at schools is that we see children. And when you see children, there are things that we see that we are able to then provide additional support or connect that student and that family with services. So in many cases, having kids in the building is certainly advantageous from a social, emotional health perspective, in addition to the academics. This whole discussion is about parent choice. We are not requiring any parent to send their children into the building. If the parent chooses for their child to attend, here are the things that need to happen. If they want their child to stay at home on distance learning, here are the things that need to continue to occur. Are we still working through what the support in the absence of virtual Mondays will be for distance learning? Yes. Are we still working through the issue of transportation? Yes, because RIDO hasn't updated and the CDC have not updated their guidance. I think the one question that I have that I really need to think about, and that we, so there's this issue of, can you bring more kids in faster? I've already said that I don't believe bringing more kids in faster is the right thing to do, but we will follow up. And this other question about whether or not we should add a gap between spring break. What's good about this meeting is that this meeting was on Monday. Tomorrow, all of the superintendents have our weekly call. And then I have a Thursday call with the East Bay superintendents. We do that every week as well. And so we'll ask and we'll get a sense of what other districts are doing. If other districts are taking a pause, that would be interesting to consider, but I hadn't heard that. And so we will check with other districts to get a sense of whether or not they're doing that and they're including that in their return plans.
All right, Dr. Bryce. So I
There
think,
should be travel guidelines in place already, I think.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I believe there's travel guidelines for testing, once you return and whether it's where you're coming from or once you get home. So that may help in that sense.
Yep.
I just want to thank everybody for weighing in and apologize to the public for not having the time for them to ask questions, but there is time between now and the workshop in April for you, Dr. Bryce, since you are the superintendent and you do make decisions about opening school here, to have your plan, to have a lot more information than you have now. I've heard some questions that have garnered some more questions, and this will give you a little bit of time so that what we see in April will be what we will be doing. Yes, I hope so.
So I think the only thing that I would clarify is the plan. This is the plan, right?
Yes,
So
I
what we
appreciate that.
right. So what we expect to see would be answers to very specific questions. But what we have presented is the plan. We expect that we're going to work with BWEA, C94, who I briefed both of those leadership teams today, to make sure that if there are other things that need to go into the equation, we will take them into account, but we think we've got it covered.
I understand this is a plan, and I have no issue with that statement. The only personal issue that I have right now is that I told the public that they could ask questions after this presentation, and I'm not going to be able to allow them to do that. So we will be doing that. We will start off the April workshop with questions from the audience on the opening of schools. In the meantime, if there's anything that you need to do to tweak your plan because of CDC guidelines, or because you choose to do what you think is in the best interests of the children, then you'll have that opportunity to do that as well. I'm not challenging your plan. I think it's well thought out. And I think that the people who asked questions had good questions to ask. There were questions that I heard from parents as well. And it will be good to reflect on it now and move forward.
Thank you.
Are you good with that? I'm
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
With that. I'm good with your plan. I like your plan. I'd love to just send them all in tomorrow, but that's my own personal feeling, and I can't put that on anybody but to tell you and the world. All right, there's one more thing that we have to do tonight, and it's kind of exciting. Ocean State Job Lot has given us a donation, and I'm going to ask Dr. Bryce to speak on that donation, and then we will adjourn the meeting. Dr. Bryce.
Yep. So we were actually, sorry, I just wanted to step in and show, we were actually contacted by Ocean State Job Lot, and we're told that they were going to include the Bristol Warren Regional School District in a supply of hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, as well as face shields. And they were giving us a total assortment value with a retail value of $24,000. So we actually sent some of our maintenance and custodial crews who are also doing a great job over to pick it up, and they have distributed this to all of our schools. So teachers in our classroom should have supply of this, as well as some more information, some more of these materials in the office. And so we are very thankful for their willingness to include us and to think about our district as they were making these donations.
Thank you. Just for the school committee's information, we need to accept this donation. We need to make a motion to accept it and second that motion and then vote on it. So I need a motion.
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Tara. I need a second.
Second.
Second, Victor. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
No, I have one sentence. Please send a letter to Ocean State Job Lot thanking them from us for their donation. And with that, Victor, I will entertain your motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Good night, everybody.